All right, let's put this back to back with the relative major of A minor. So what that means is a C major scale. Let's just have a look at what happens when we do that. So I'm going to make the diatonic chord progression in C major one more time. Okay, let's take a quick look at this. Even though we just did, but trust me, you're going to thank me for this. So the pattern here is major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, major. Let's think about this for a second. Let's just use the diminished chord because there's only one of these diminished chords. Let's just kind of pinpoint on that. This is a B diminished chord, and it's the 7 chord. Okay, it's the 7th chord in the sequence. It's the chord built on the 7th in the key of C because B is the 7th in the key of C. Let's jump back to A. Our diminished chord in A is also B, right? But it's only the 2 chord. Let's think about that for just a second. The 2 chord, the diminished chord is still the diminished chord. It's still B in the relative key, which means everything else lines up. They're just shifted. Let me explain a little bit better. I think this will make be the most clear. I'm going to keep this going. I'm going to keep going in C major all the way up to A. So I'm still in C major, C diatonic chord progression. I'm just going to repeat a D chord an octave higher, then an E chord, an F chord, G chord, and then I'm going to end it on A. Okay, so let me zoom out a little bit here. Big, long diatonic chord progression in C all the way up, quite high. Now look at this. So here's our pattern from C to C, right here, these 8 chords. Okay, and that gives us our major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, major pattern. But what if we took the same exact thing and let's just start on the A minor, the relative minor of C major. What do we get then? We get minor, diminished, major, minor, minor, major, major, minor. We get the right pattern. All we did was shift. We just started here. So if we just looked at these first 8, what we could do is do the same major pattern that we already know, but just start it right here. Minor, diminished, major, cycle back. Skip that one because it's the same as that one, right? And then minor, minor, major, major, minor. It's the same pattern. It's the exact same pattern. It just starts here instead of here. Let's do it the other way. Let's go to A minor and let's go up to C. Okay, here's our C major chord. If we started counting our diatonic chord progression from right here, it would be major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, cycle back, diminished, major. It would be the same pattern, just shifted by 3 chords, right? Start up here, count it up, cycle back. It's the same pattern. So when we look at the minor diatonic chord progression, it looks like a whole new pattern, but it's actually not. It is the major pattern that we already know, but we're just starting at a different spot. And that works in any key. In any key, if you can figure out the diatonic chord progression of the relative major, then you'll have the right names for all the chords. Does that make sense? Let me just try to say that one more time. So if let's do just a whole new key here. If we're in the key of, let's do the key of E major. Okay, I'm not even going to write all the notes. I'm just going to walk us through this with words. We're in the key of E major. Now we can figure out all of the chords that work in E major by thinking about the scale and the pattern. So it would be E major. We have to apply the key signature. So the next note's going to be F sharp, and it's the second chord in a major key, so it's going to be a minor chord. And then G sharp, and that's going to be a minor chord. So we just walk through the scale and we put the appropriate chord on it. Now, if we want to do that in minor, if we want to find all the correct chords that exist in the relative minor, what we need to do is first figure out the relative minor. Remember, our trick for that was to go down 2, and that's going to be a C sharp because of the key signature of E. That ends up being a C sharp. So it's C sharp minor is the relative minor of E major. Now, what are all the chords that are going to work in C sharp minor? They're going to be the same chords that work in E major. They're going to be the exact same. If you want to lay them out all in order, you're going to start the order at a different spot. But at the end of the day, the names of all the chords, C sharp minor, D sharp diminished, E major, etc., going through the whole scale, they're all going to be the same chords. The chords will be the same. The order of them will be a little bit different, but if you're just trying to find what chords work in that key, all the chords in the relative major and minor are the same. The patterns, you can figure out the patterns if you want, you just have to start them a little bit different. Start it here and go through the major diatonic chord progression and you'll have all the right chords. Or you can memorize the pattern all the way up from in the minor key. That could be useful depending on what your how your brain works. Maybe you want to think that way. Now, there is another little wrinkle to this. Sometimes this version of the minor scale doesn't quite cut it, and we have to alter it a little bit. So let's talk about that a little bit in the next video.